Hi, everybody. Matt Bernier, joined by DRF's national handicapper Mike Watchmaker, taking a look at this weekend's Weekend Warrior for the weekend of September the 15th. Big action all over the continent. Forget about just the country. We're going to have a big one up at Woodbine. We'll wrap that up later on. Let's start off, though, with three-year-old fillies in race 9 at Belmont Park. Mile and an eighth on the inner turf course, Mike. 8 of them are signed on. It's an interesting race, the Sands Point. I think it can go a few different ways. Where did you ultimately go?
Strangely, I went against all three of Chad Brown's entrants in here. I mean, usually Chad Brown has races like this over a barrel, but I just think that his three-pronged uncoupled entry in this race are kind of vulnerable. I mean, they look like second stringers or, horses that might not be suitable pace-wise or whatever. I went with the California Shipper, California Gold Rush. I thought she ran terrific. Went third in the Del Mar Oaks last time out. It was her first start since winning an allowance race early this year at Santa Anita. It was her first start in six months, and we're looking at that allowance win at Santa Anita early this year. But California Gold Rush was caught 4 wide on the first turn, 3 wide on the far turn. Let me reverse that. She was caught 3 wide in the first turn, 4 wide on the far turn in the Del Mar Oaks off that 6-month layoff. Still finished third, and all of that after being close to a pace that was pretty strong. And I think that the fact that she was fairly close to that strong pace is actually a good sign in this race, because there's very little speed in this race. And I do think California Gold Rush is going to be prominently placed, and she's going to get first jump on the closers here.
Opening Saturday at Churchill Downs for their September meeting. Race number 9 is the Grade 3 Locust Grove. These are older fillies and mares, or I should say 3-year-olds and up. You have the return of Blue Prize. Likely this is a prep to get to the Breeders' Cup Distaff. Do you want to go with the favorite, or are you going against her?
I'm going to go against Blue Prize. I just think she might need this race first start off a 3-month layoff. And I'm also going to go against Champagne Problems, who's in career form. She won her last 2 starts. Her most recent victory in the Groupie Doll was a strong performance, her best yet. But she's a horse that's always been shaky going 2 turns. And the Groupie Doll was a 1.5 turn mile at Ellis. This is a 2-turn route, and I think she might be a little bit vulnerable in here. And I'm going with Pinch Hit. Now, Pinch Hit was no match for Champagne Problems, went third in the Groupie Doll, but she steadied twice in between horses in the early stages of that race, and the dynamics of the race were completely against her. In this race, another race where, and this is even more surprising because it's a dirt race, there's hardly any speed in this race. And my hope is Pinch Hit, who's got positional speed, will just be sent right to the front and lead this field the very chase. And she's capable of doing it. She was a solid winner of a stakes race at Indiana Grand 2 starts back at this distance. And 3 starts back, she was a narrowly beaten second to Champagne Problems in allowance race at Churchill. And she was arguably best that day. She didn't have a great trip. So, I'm just hoping Pinch Hit goes to the front and improves her position.
We'll wrap things up with the 8th race at Woodbine on Saturday, a giant day of racing up north of the border at Woodbine. The Grade 1 Woodbine Mile. You've only got a field of 8, but it is an interesting field, or 9, I should say. You have some horses coming in from Europe. You've got horses turning back in distance. You've got a filly taking on the boys. Ultimately, where'd you go?
Well, I took a bit of a flyer in here, Matt. I went with Good Samaritan. Look, if Oscar Performance shows up and runs his A race, he's a very potential winner here. I mean, if Delta Prince shows up and runs his best race, he's a very potential winner. But, Oscar Performance was eased in the stretch of the Arlington Million last time. And even though he's worked well since, I can't trust him until I see him race again. And Delta Prince, as sharp as he is right now, he had the measure of Voodoo Song last time out in the 4-star Dave in deep stretch, and he couldn't close the deal. Good Samaritan to me is a flyer because he is doing something he hasn't done in a long time. He's moving back to turf after racing for more than a year on dirt. But I get a feeling that turf might really be his best surface. I mean, you can make a case that he was better than Oscar Performance when he was third in the 2016 Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. He had a terrible trip in that race. He also chased Oscar Performance in races early last year, like the Pennine Ridge and Belmont Derby. But those were very slow-paced races that completely compromised Good Samaritan's late kick. Then he went to the dirt. He won the Jim Dandy. He crushed the Kentucky Derby winner and the Preakness winner, just crushed them. And it was, it was almost a good and bad thing because they focused on dirt racing from that point forward, and his form has been spotty ever since. But geez, Matties, we're running against horses like Diversify and West Coast and Mind Your Biscuits. I mean, just much, much better horses than he's going to be meeting in this spot. I'm thinking the switch back to turf is really going to help this horse. I think he's been knocking heads against better than he meets. Nothing against Oscar Performance and Delta Prince and the others in here. I think he's a horse that's worth a flyer.
We'll find out. It should be a fun race no matter what. DRF's national handicapper, Mike Watchmaker, with this weekend's Weekend Warrior. You can find the entire write-up over on drf.com. Mike, great stuff as always. Talk again soon.
Thank you, Matt.